Good morning, Buffaloes. Today we're going to be looking at the assignment for the poetry analysis. So when you go into Teams, you will see the instructions: read Amanda Gorman's poem New Day's Lyric, and there's a copy attached. Use online annotation if it helps you, so you can mark this up if you need to. And then analyze the poem using TPCASTT. And here is your blank document. So I'm going to walk you through the instructions of TPCASTT, and hopefully that will help. So TPCASTT is a strategy used for poetry analysis, and it's an anagram, of course. So we've got title. So what do you think the poem is going to be about before you even read the poem? So you would put that in that space. Then paraphrase. After you've read the poem, what do you think the poem's about in your own words? So what is the main idea of the poem? Then connotation and construction. This is where most of the work gets done. So you're going to go back through the poem, and you're going to look for the meaning beyond the literal. So you're going to focus on the use of figurative language. What is a simile that is used? What's a metaphor? How does the poem use symbolism, diction, point of view, alliteration, onomatopoeia? So all of these are options that you can analyze, and what you'll do is you'll put the term, the quote from the poem that illustrates the term, and then an explanation of how you know that that quote is an example of personification, or how you know the author is using rhythm and rhyme, or how the author is using imagery. Okay. Then attitude, that's the speaker and poet's attitude. How does the speaker or the poet feel about the topic of the poem? This is also known as tone. So you'll need to provide examples from the poem and an explanation. How do you know that's the tone? S stands for style and shifts. So this will have two answers. So you're identifying the author's style. Maybe the author has a specific way they use rhyme. Maybe they're known for free verse poetry. Maybe it's a topic that the poem keeps returning to often. Note the shifts in the speakers and the attitudes. So the shift would be where the poem changes. So it could be a change of feelings, a change of location, a change of speakers, a change of time. And make sure that you provide quotes from the poem that demonstrate that shift, and tell me what kind it is. The first T is theme. Determine what is the poet saying. What is the life lesson the poet is addressing? What is the universal truth about life? And how do you know? And then the last T is text impact. What does the audience take away from reading the poem? How does the poem connect with the reader? So let's look at an example. So we have the hill we climb. Okay. So the hill, obviously, under the blank typecast, right? You would have, what do you think the poem's about? The hill we climb. Well, obviously, we were probably going to be climbing a hill. Um, the Hill We Climb was actually the inaugural poem by Amanda Gorman for Joe Biden's inauguration. So you've probably heard it before. And it's talking about hope. It's talking about the battle between light and dark, the things we like about being American and the things that aren't so pretty about being American, that kind of thing. All right. The next one is construction, then. This is where we tear it apart. So here we have, obviously, she has a rhyme scheme, but it's not a typical rhyme format because it does change. So, like we have shade and wade, and then we have beast and peace, but not everything rhymes. So we have just is, and justice, knew it and do it. So we talk about the rhyme scheme there. Then we'd also talk about alliteration, norms and notions we've weathered and witnessed. successors, skinny, slaves, single, and then polished, pristine, perfect, and purpose. So you're looking at the different forms of alliteration. Um, then we look at the repetition here, or the parallelism, that even as we arrived, we grew, or that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried. So we've got that parallelism as well. Um, and then we've got lots of imagery. And imagery is usually the five senses. So smell, sight, sound, touch, and taste. But it can also be imagery on a motif, light imagery. So every time they reference something light, or dark imagery, or death imagery, or love imagery, that kind of thing. So what kind of imagery is the poet using? You want to have at least five. So you cannot repeat them. So you can't have two or more similes. You can't have two or more personifications. It's about one. All of these have to be different. And that just shows the depth of your knowledge that you're explaining. So you would put here you would put metaphor, the quote from the poem, and then explain what the metaphor is comparing. All right, then we look at the attitude, how the poet feels. And in this poem, we see a lot of hope. So through the dark, Gorman does find a lot of hope in America. She talks about redemption. She talks about power. She talks about there's always, no matter, she always offsets a negative by a positive. Okay, so bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, in action and inertia, inheritance. So there's some assonance right there, repeated vowel sounds. And her tone is full of hope. She has hope for the future of America, especially in the last lines. If only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. The shift occurs. There's a couple of shifts in this poem. There's a poem where she takes a moment and stops looking at America and looks at herself and how she has a place in history. When she talks about every breath from my bronze pounded chest. Okay. And she talks about how a skinny girl, a skinny black girl, is now, presenting for a president. So that's a shift as well. The theme or life lesson is going to be probably something along the lines of what stands between us and what stands before us. So what is the difference there? So should we let what stands between us interfere with what stands before us? So kind of, in a way, just get over yourselves and let's work together. And then the text impact, that's how, after reading the poem, how does the poem make you feel? Okay. What emotions did it stir up? What is your initial reaction, or what is your reaction to the poem after you've analyzed it? So you'll fill all of this out for the poem. And it will be the poem. It's another Gorman poem, but it will be for New Day's Lyric. And this is a New Year's poem that she developed, and so on. So that's what you will be looking at. So here is the hill we climb, and I've marked it up for you. And then you're going to do New Day's Lyric and do the same thing. Okay? Good luck.